no need to. Thank you, Kitty. All right, let's take it away.
Good evening, everyone. We thank you for tuning in to the UBS NextGen Leaders College Decisions Conference Call. This evening, you will hear from Julian Johnson, the Executive Vice President of SEO, on the importance of selecting a competitive college. Additionally, you will also hear from Rika Dinos, who will also speak to the topic and assist you all with making final selections, as we understand this is a very important part of your college making decision. So with no further ado, I will pass it over to Julian Johnson.
Thank you, Chandra. Got that right. Hi, good evening, everyone. What I'm going to speak about is the non-academic benefits to attending a selective college. My colleague Vika will focus on the academic-related ones more so. I want to talk to you about the non-academic benefits. And in some ways, at the end of the day, they're equally important to the academic benefits you will gain from attending college, because really what the purpose of college is, in a practical sense, is pre-employment preparation. Right? You go into college with the aim of securing a satisfying and well-paying job to allow you to kind of go on and live your life and have a nice middle-class existence in America, or better. So let me kind of I want to talk about four things. One is looking at access to better internships, the credibility that goes with attending a selective college, the kind of exposure you will get at a more selective college to other aspects of the American community and society, and then also talk a little bit about the alumni network that relates to all that. So let's go to the first point, which is access to better internships and jobs. So one factor that you may not know, but is really important, is that companies, no matter whether they be large or small, limit the number of colleges they recruit at, really for financial reasons, for cost reasons. Right, so there are several thousand, over 2,000 four-year colleges in the United States. You can imagine it would be quite impractical for any company in finding talent coming out of school to recruit at all 2,000 colleges. So the reality is that most companies might recruit at up to 40 to 50 schools, and some companies recruit as few as 20 schools. So what money companies that have the most competitive and best compensated opportunities use as their approach is that they focus on allowing the undergraduate institutions, the colleges and universities of the United States, to really kind of do the selection, the initial selection process for them, or as might be called the vetting process. So as we all know that to attend a competitive school, you have to have a track record of achievement that precedes your application in order to secure an opportunity at a competitive college. Companies, in effect, know that, so they know that if you're attending a competitive college, the vetting process, selection process that determined your access and opportunity to attend that college is already screened for your academic achievement, screened using that academic achievement as a proxy for your kind of, I'm going to say, talent or ability, as well as your work ethic. So those three things, even though they may not accurately reflect each of those characteristics of you as an individual, but for a company, it is a nice shorthand way of getting to a highly talented pool of hardworking, achievement-oriented individuals. So all the work that different colleges in the United States do about spreading out and popularizing, publicizing what they do and the value of attending their college works to the benefit of corporations that are looking to identify highly talented, motivated, and hardworking individuals. So companies by default, therefore, will only recruit at a small number of colleges, and they will target colleges that have already done that kind of screening for them up front. So that's what selective colleges mean to a company. Individuals who are attending those colleges have already demonstrated their talent, ability, and drive. So therefore, if you are trying to assess what do you do post-college, you can recognize that the college environment you are in, and therefore the companies that recruit that college will be very much determined by the competitiveness of the school that you're attending. The second and related point to it is that companies will recruit at certain colleges, at a small number of colleges for certain roles, and recruit at other colleges for, let's say, less significant roles in the company. So your ideal spot to be in is where you're attending a college where a company or companies are recruiting for their best paying positions, their management track opportunities. There are other colleges that recruit at, but they'll recruit for what they call their back office opportunities. And back office jobs are ones that are not as important for helping a company earn the revenue that will make it profitable. So where they invest most of their money, most of their resources, and compensate employees best is in those revenue generating positions within a company. And they will selectively choose the company, the colleges and universities that they recruit at to find the talent for those roles. So even though a company might recruit at a particular school, the question that you really would want to pose for a career office, and perhaps in making a decision, is what roles are they recruiting for at your school? So there's both, are companies the top companies recruiting at your school, and secondly, what are the jobs that they're recruiting for in terms of their kind of whole kind of corporate labor structure. So keep in mind, again, it's about being in the right place where the right opportunities are being presented to you as compared to being equally talented, but in a place where really companies are not going to look for their talent. They don't need to hire 2 million people. In many cases, they're hiring either hundreds or even, in the thousands in some cases, but generally speaking, a relatively small number compared to all the college graduating seniors or interns that might be seeking roles. So let's kind of use that as one of the things that you want to carry in your mind as you're making a decision. A second one has to do with something very similar, which is basically the credibility that goes along with attending a more selective institution. Basically, what companies look at in considering individuals for candidates for internships or employment are two basic things. One is what school did an individual attend, or do they attend? And secondly, what was their GPA? 95 or 98% of companies will not actually dive into your transcript. Very rare that companies will do that. Graduate schools will, but very rare that companies will. I think it's been 99%. But they will be looking for what's the selectivity of the institution you're attending and how well is that individual doing at that institution. So attending a selective institution automatically gives you a credibility that is really important to giving you opportunities that might otherwise not be extended to you. And as was said to you at one of the presentations that was done, and hopefully you had an opportunity to attend, this is particularly true for minority students, students of color. The impact on whites is less, but on students of color it's an enormous impact when they look at the studies, what school you attended in terms of opening doors and giving you opportunities. So there's a credibility that goes with that, and I think most people who are employers, even employers of color, or individuals of color, or minorities, who are even selecting candidates for their own companies, will tell you they respond and react to looking at what college the student's attending. So if we see somebody who's attending a competitive school, a highly competitive school, we're just much more likely they want to interview that individual, because even if they don't have the perfect experience for an entry-level job, that competitiveness of that school tells us that they're smart and hardworking. And basically, what we're looking for when we're bringing people into any of our kind of employment opportunities are smart and hardworking individuals. We can train and teach individuals what it is the job actually entails, but we need to make sure that they've kind of demonstrated their capacity for working hard and that they seem to have the intellectual capability developed in them in order to master the work that we might present to them. And that's what the credibility of a school brand does, and it's particularly valuable and important to students of color. Let me go to the third point, and this has to do with exposure. The affluent part of America, and I'm going to call them the upper middle class and upper class, which is a term not commonly used in America, but basically individuals whose parents have undergraduate and graduate degrees, which really kind of is the kind of upper middle class of America. Those are the folks who, for the most part, run American institutions, whether it be a corporation, a law firm, a university, whatever sector of society you're looking for, those are the people who are running it. They have those backgrounds. They happen to send their children to selective institutions. So there's a real importance to gaining greater and greater familiarity with the cultural nuances of upper middle class America. Right? Typically, you're talking about Caucasian individuals who've been brought up in a good deal of isolation away from communities of color and low-income individuals. But since they have such an important role in the decision-making process in corporations, universities, and other settings, as well as I relate to graduate schools, what you really want to do is become familiar with the cultural norms and social mores of individuals who grew up in those circumstances. And I'd like to give you this example as a parallel. If you were looking to go and take a job in China or in Saudi Arabia, I'm guessing that you would be pretty certain that it would be important for you to study up on what the differences in cultures are between the United States or American culture and the culture in China or the culture in Saudi Arabia in order for you to be successful. I'm guessing that all of us, faced with that, including yourself, faced with that opportunity, would begin to read up and study as much as we could and talk to people so that we can learn about the nuances of how people interact with one another, what are the kind of little expectations that people have of one another, and how they present themselves in those various cultures. It's no different than you're talking about when you're going to work in corporate America or work in the university community or other things related to it. You need to know the culture of the individuals who are working there, and that really is what you're going to find in a more selective institution. A question I've often posed to SEO interns is asking them how many of them had a close white friend. And these are students who are already undergraduates. And I would say nowadays 80–85% of hands will go up. The second question I posed to them, how many have more than one close white friend? And the reason why I asked that second question is because their one single white friend may be someone like Eminem, someone who grew up in the projects, right? Is kind of very much acclimated to urban culture of color, but that person is not going to help introduce you through osmosis and just from kind of informal contact to the nuances of corporate culture and upper middle class American culture. So it's very, very valuable for you to get that exposure. You will get that when you go to a more selective school. And the last and kind of related point has to do with the alumni network that you'll come away with. Just as I mentioned that the children of the more privileged people in America attend selective institutions, that is also then an alumni network that you will create for yourself. And that will provide you with access to opportunities that basically are not advertised. They're unmarked doors. And it's through those doors that, for the most part, the most valuable opportunities are entered into. So the alumni network that you will forge at a more selective institution becomes very valuable for you. You may right now not recognize the importance of relationships in one's network. And it'll be maybe hard to convey to you the importance of it. But I would ask you in this case, truly take the word, my word and the word of others who have forged a career that who you know and being able to get access to people who can open doors or provide a bridge from something to that from where you are to what you want to get to is just instrumental and vital. So when you're looking for that first job or that internship, and you're able to reach out to an alum who's decently positioned in a company that you want to work for, and you're able to reach out and say, well, I'm a student here, that person is going to be much more receptive to you than to someone who comes from another school that they didn't attend. You will find even in some companies that the employees within the companies look to build up alumni from their schools or individuals from their schools into their workforce, because they again know that those people are likely to be more favorable to them and their own advancement because of their mutual affiliation with their alma mater. So opening a door, it just opens the door up. So those alumni networks are really vital, and those are these four things: access to better internships and jobs, the credibility that comes from going to a selective institution in terms of what people will assume about your intellectual capability and your willingness to work hard, your exposure to upper middle class America, as well as the alumni network, are all very valuable reasons that truly can change the trajectory of your life of why you should attend the most selective college you can get into in reality. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Vika or to Chandra, who will introduce Vika.
Thank you, Julian. Without further ado, I will introduce Vika Racinos, who will continue the discussion on why it's important to attend a competitive college.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for participating in this conference call that will hopefully shed some light on your college decision process in the next few weeks. Just a little bit about myself before I get started. My name is Vika, like Chandra mentioned, and I'm going on my 4th year with SEO. I'm a program manager of SEO College Scholars, and I support the academic career needs of college scholars, as well as aid in getting them summer internships. I manage and oversee large-scale career networking events that we throw for all of our college scholars. I also manage staff that work on the career development and exposure of all SEO students. And all of these things that I do will also include the UBS NextGen leaders. So this evening, I want to share with you a few things about the important decisions that lie ahead as you and your family choose where you will be going to college. So as I'm speaking, I greatly encourage you to type questions in the YouTube comments box and you can email Chandra directly, or you can text your questions similar to the past workshops to the easy text. So I will be able to answer some of these questions at the end of our discussion. Last week, you should have received a copy of the Barron's ranking and the detailed college profile that I hope you all have been already looking at and looking through with the schools that you've already been accepted to. So the first thing I want you guys to do right now is to go through all of the schools that you've been admitted to and highlight them in your Barron's list with a highlighter. So this is the list that you should have received, and I want you to go literally with a highlighter, highlight every school that you have been accepted to. And you want to see the categories of where those schools land and see if they fall in most competitive, highly competitive, very competitive, and so on. And then I want you to take a look at the college profile document. Look for your schools and look at the columns that show the retention the school has and the graduation rates. You want both of those numbers to be on the high end. That means that students are staying in school. They aren't leaving or being kicked out, which is a really great sign for a school that you want to attend. And the four-year graduation rate is really, really important because it shows that you're at a school that values college completion and works to ensure that you do graduate. And that's a really great sign for a school. So these are the three important messages that I really want you to take from this call and that I really want to hone in on our call tonight. Ultimately, it is critical that you go to the best school that you can go to. Schools in the higher tiers have more of everything, but especially money, which we all know is really important. And loans, which is a huge word that everyone seems to be scared of when applying to college, loans in and of themselves are not a bad thing. And it really depends on what school you're taking a loan for and how much. So I want to be clear that a lot of the things that we discuss with loans in your financial aid package, it really, really is dependent on the school and how high the tier is. And so we're going to go a little bit more into that. So we really love stats and we love research to back up everything that we say here at SEO. And as I was doing some research on the top tier schools, I saw that a law professor at Vanderbilt University did a research study on everything we're talking about with you guys tonight. The National Survey of College Graduates surveyed 178,000 grads, and what they found is really astounding. They found that the higher the tier of the school that you go to, the more money you make when you graduate. If you go to a lower tier school, it is hard for you to catch up to make as much money even after you go to a great graduate school. And sadly, it's unlikely that you'll be able to attend a great and exceptional graduate school if you don't go to an elite school for college. Only 3% of students attending non-competitive colleges are admitted to competitive graduate schools. So this is really important for you to keep in mind in looking at the long term when you're making this decision. Many students make the decision to attend school based on the fact of affordability, that their family finds as the schools that are affordable because there's a good financial aid package, or maybe there's a local college that can allow you to save money on room and board, even if the school isn't very competitive. Some of these students who are choosing to go to a lower tier school for reasons of affordability, they're doing this even if they have been admitted to a higher ranked school. And this is what we really want to emphasize tonight. If you have been accepted to a higher ranked school, we really want you to think really hard and to choose that school regardless of the financial aid. And I'll go into more specifics about what to look for. So choosing not to go to a top school is essentially throwing away money at the end of the day. So your decision now, you always want to think in the long term. At SEO, our real life experience is very much what the statistics say. We've worked with college students for years, and we've seen a lot of these things play out. In the long run, it's not so much the cost of the school, but the tier of the school that has long-term employment and financial stability impact. And I've seen this year after year of working with college students. When given the option of taking out loans, we've seen that it's more strategic to take out some loans to attend a higher ranked school than to have less loans or no debt and attend a lower ranked school. What you want to try to avoid is taking out loans for non-competitive schools. We see that higher tier schools help students earn money faster, which means they pay off their loans faster. Students that go to non-competitive schools and take out a lot of loans are then unable to get higher paying jobs after college, and as a result are not able to pay back the loans as quickly. So I want to tell you a few facts about schools that are in the top tiers. And this goes way back to, if you remember, when we shared the information with you at the college application workshop back in November about the benefits of going to a top school. And your cohort managers, Chandra and Christina, have worked with you to include schools that were competitive. And there is a reason we have been encouraging you to think outside of the box and to apply for top schools that you are actually qualified to attend. So these are some of the benefits that I'm going to share with you of attending the higher ranked schools. So just like we've been harping on, the higher tier schools have higher four-year graduation rates. You can also use the detailed profile to see the graduation rates for some of the institutions that you have been looking at. What does this mean for you? What does four-year graduation mean? It means that you get to start your career and start making money earlier to pay off your debt. Why would you want to stay in college longer than 4 years when the whole purpose is so that you can graduate and make money? And so you really want to look at that four-year graduation rate. There's also more recognition across the country and the globe. Just like Julian was mentioning earlier, that brand name will speak for itself. You will have a more extensive alumni that are heavily engaged and willing to advise on your career options and choices. I've worked with many students at top-tier schools during their senior year when looking for colleges, and they've had alumni actually reach out to them and come to recruit on their college campuses from top companies because they want people from their alma mater who also have the same type of education. And they really will be looking specifically at those top tier colleges, just like Julian was mentioning. You have more employment and internship connections that your school has with top employers. These are the best companies, where the best companies go to hire students. Also, research opportunities are really, really big at these top-tier schools, where you can spend the summer doing research with renowned scientists and get involved with their work at a very young age. And having research or any publication on your resume before you graduate college is so impressive. And these schools give you those opportunities to make you more competitive for grad school or whatever you want your future career to be. Also on these college campuses, the leadership roles and opportunities are way higher. Higher tier schools have more money to put into student development, so you can start your own club if you don't find something you like. There are a lot more opportunities for leadership roles and access to resources for your clubs, which will also get you more recognition and make you more competitive with these roles. These schools have more students go to top graduate schools, especially medical school and law school. And the best graduate schools in the country want students from the best colleges in the country. Higher ranked, especially private schools, have larger endowments, which mean you can get more grants instead of a loan. You can also appeal your financial aid. As you heard in the financial aid workshop in February, you can and you should appeal your financial aid. And top tier schools can help you lower your loans and give you more aid. The small loan you may have to take out to go to a top tier college will pay for itself when you graduate from college. That is a smart investment. Now, after all of this, you may be thinking, this is so unfair that I am being evaluated on the name of my school and not necessarily how smart I am. It is unfair, and it really sucks that this is something that exists, but the thing is, this is what will make you successful, and this is what your whole passion and your energy and everything that you've been putting into applying to college and working really hard in high school to get to where you are now. This is the opportunity for you to really make something of all of your hard work, and going to a top tier school will give you those advantages that I outlined. I've had students over the years who are incredibly smart, hardworking, have amazing GPAs at schools that are not in top tiers. And it's really sad to see how much they struggle in their senior year to get a company to pay attention to them. Even in their freshman, sophomore, junior year, just to get an internship, it is very difficult for them to get the access to those types of companies, even though on paper, they have everything the companies would want. And it's very unfair, but this is the reality. And so we want you all to be able to be the most competitive and to get the type of support and the networks that you deserve and that you've worked hard for. So meanwhile, while these students who are at the lower tier schools are really struggling and fighting and competing with each other for the attention of these top companies, the students at top tier schools are where the big companies are looking. When a big advertising agency or a big investment bank or Google or Facebook are looking to hire employees, they first ask me and our staff here, where do these students go to college? Where are we getting them from? And they ask me other details in addition. But the first question they always ask us is, where do they go to college? What brand are they from? What school are they from? So let's say you hold a leadership position. You're on the dean's list. You're a finance major. You're an athlete. You're committed to your future and everything. But you're at a non-competitive college. You may still not be noticed by the company. Again, it's unfair, and I wish it wasn't this way, but this is the way that it is, and we have to work within this way for now, because this is how you're going to be able to really get the best opportunities when you graduate. So all of this is to say that you have been getting admission letters from schools. Don't just go to the cheapest school. Go to the best school. There's a huge payout at the end. And so please, like I mentioned, look through the Barron's list, look through the college profiles, and really spend some time looking at where your schools fall. Take the finances away for a minute and look at just what the schools have to offer. So that is the end of everything that I wanted to share with you all about this, about choosing the best school. And if you would like to send in any information or send in any questions for us to answer, you can feel free.
Great, thank you, Vika. We do have a few questions, and at this point we will take a moment to ask those questions so that you guys can receive some answers. Additionally, you will see in the comments portion of the video broadcast the instructions for how you can submit more questions, so we encourage you to do so. So the first question: before I actually make my college decision, what key points should I most focus on when choosing my college?
So just like I've been mentioning, the tier. Look at this list. You guys should all recognize this Barron's listing that we sent you. This is going to be your ticket. This is your main resource that you want to look at before you make that decision.
Great, thank you. So another question. How much is a good amount of debt to leave college with?
So there isn't a specific number of debt that anyone would like to leave college with, but again, you really want to focus on what school is going to give me the best opportunity so that I can pay off that debt faster. If you have very specific questions about your aid packages, you can talk to Chandra or Christina to get more specific answers on your specific situation. But in general, there isn't a magic number where you need to be above this amount of debt or less than this debt. It's really about the opportunities that are going to help you pay off that debt.
Sandra, let me just add to that too. So if you look at the average student graduates out of a four-year college in the United States with student debt around $25,000. By 24,000 and change is the average student debt. What's really important is not to incur student debt where there's not a return on it, right? So if you presented us with an example of a less competitive private school that was going to entail you taking out $10,000 or $15,000 a year in loans, but it was a less competitive school or not known to be a competitive school, we would advise you go to a cheaper state college because the value of the brand of that other school would not be significantly better than the public state college that would cost you less. So you don't want to invest a bunch of money. I mean, I could name some schools, but I won't. Where you might wind up between loans and other things. You've got a $20,000 gap to fill, but you're not going to get a return on that money because the school does not have a strong enough brand to be of interest to employers who compensate their employees at high levels.
Great, thank you, Julian. Hi, I've received a financial aid award from one of the universities I applied to. The aid, however, is not really feasible for me and my family. What should I do?
So again, I would identify, what is affordable, and depending if this is a top tier, I'm assuming this is a top tier school, you would want to advocate and appeal to see if you can get a higher financial aid package if you haven't done so already. And just like Julian said, if it is a lower tier school or a non-competitive college, then maybe it's okay that it's not the right financial aid package. But if it is a top tier school, you really want to see if there's anything that you can do to try and afford it, to get out some loans or to appeal to the school.
Great.
And before you go on, speaking of loans, Vika, I don't know, maybe you want to speak a little bit about the different types of loans, federal subsidized loans versus private loans.
So the private loans have a significant higher interest rate. So if you are taking out loans, you want to start with the federal loans. And because the federal loans, you don't have to start paying, and some of them don't start accruing interest until after you graduate. So it's really important to start with and maximize your federal student loans first, and then you can go back and look at if there's an option for private loans. But the private loans, you really want to be your last option.
Thank you, Vika. Previously, you mentioned advocating for more financial aid. Can you kind of just dive a little bit deeper for us and explain what exactly that means?
Sure. So at the financial aid workshops that you guys attended in February, you heard about appeals and being able to write an appeal letter if you needed to, if you aren't happy with the financial aid package that you had. So if you are accepted to the school and they want you, they must, and they're a top tier college, they have money. And so you can write a letter, and you can get help writing this letter from a counselor for Chandra, Christina, so that you can appeal and write the specific reasons why you must go to their school, and how the only thing preventing you from attending is the lack of aid. And so that's one way that you can advocate. If you are able to meet in person, that is also an option, so you can have that face-to-face conversation with the financial aid advisor. That is maybe if it's more local, or if you're able to get out to the school. But don't stop with that first initial aid letter. You want to try even more to see if there's anything else you can do if you did get accepted to a top tier school.
Great, thank you. My parents don't understand the importance of the competitiveness of schools. Could you help me developing clear and concise talking points to use when discussing my college decision with them?
Yeah, I think that's a huge deal. This is a family decision, and so it's really important for your parents to understand some of the things that we have been telling you. And so to go back to what we said, I would say the main points that you want them to understand is the long-term investment. And to go back to what Julian was saying, understanding how when you graduate, even in debt, if you will be able to pay off your debt faster if you're able to go to top tier school, make the connections with the alumni, make connections with the school's connections and networks. So that's the main thing, that long-term return on investment if you attend a top tier school. And if they have specific questions and would maybe like to talk to someone about it, I'm sure that you can find a way for Chandra or Christina to give you some maybe specific talking points to you, specifically to the situation, so that they can help you explain it a little better. We're more than happy to help you, coach you, and figure out how to speak to your parents, because it is a family decision.
Great, thank you. What if I go to a less competitive school for a year or two, then transfer? What are the downsides and risks to this?
So I've worked with multiple students who have done this, and it is very, very difficult to transfer. A lot of people think that, oh, if I go to this school right away that's less competitive, I can just reapply and get into a more competitive school later. But the reality is, what the openings for the schools when you're transferring, they're only accepting the students who have maybe been dismissed or who have left. So when you're applying to college now as a senior, you're competing with, for hundreds of spots in a class. When you are applying to transfer, you are applying for maybe 2 or 3 spots in a class for the people who left. So it is very competitive. It's very rare that you are able to transfer. And I had a student who went to Brooklyn College, had a high GPA, could have made the decision to go to a higher ranked school, and decided just to transfer. She had a 3.7 GPA. She was involved in everything, had internships in not well-known companies, but did have some internship experience. Applied to 10 different schools, didn't get accepted to 1. And it was very unfortunate because, like I said, she was very smart, had all of the right things on her resume that you would think would get you to transfer. But there just weren't any openings in the school she was applying to. So the school that you commit to go to starting your freshman year, think that is the school that I will be attending all 4 years. And you can try to apply, but it is very rare that you'll be able to get into a very high competitive school as a transfer. You may be able to transfer to a non-competitive school, but it is very rare that you'll be able to transfer into a very high competitive school.
Thank you. Is it encouraged to graduate in 3 years or less?
So if you could graduate in 3 years or less, I think that is great, because you will be saving a year. But the 4 years is really the benchmark. a lot of students who come in with credits already, if they've taken college classes in high school, may start as a sophomore or a junior, so it actually takes them less time to graduate, which is completely fine. I don't see an issue with graduating earlier. You run into some issues when you graduate more than 4 years.
Thank you.
Shannon, let me just comment on that also, just a tiny bit of an add-on, is that watch for your GPA. I mean, that's the key. Right, so if you get out in 3 years, if you have a low GPA because you took so many classes and you weren't able to do as well in them, that GPA will cut off opportunities for you. Obviously, graduating in 3 years sounds like you're a high achiever, as an example, but the GPA will indicate other things to people, so make sure that the one is complementing the other.
Thank you, Julie. Is taking out a $14,000 loan a year okay?
Again, that goes back to, it depends on which school you're taking that loan out for. So if you're taking a $14,000 loan for Columbia or a top-tier school, then that return on investment will be very high. If you're taking $14,000 school for a non-competitive school, $14,000 loan a year for a non-competitive school, then you won't have that return on investment. Just like what Julian was saying, you may not be able to pay off that loan because you don't have the access to the resources and networks when you graduate.
Thank you, Vika. What if I don't get accepted into a top-tier school? Does this mean that it's over for anyone in this situation?
No, it doesn't mean that it's over. If you don't get accepted to a top-tier school, you want to look at the rankings. It has the top 3 on the Barron's list. It has most competitive, highly competitive, very competitive, competitive, and then less competitive. You want to see where it lands, and you would also want to look at the college profile and see what some of those statistics are for 4-year graduation rate and retention, and kind of use a mix of those two different worksheets to make your decision. And again, Christina and Chandra are here to help you make those decisions. So while you're weighing the different colleges that you're accepted to, they can help you figure out which would be the best option for you. So you're not doomed if you didn't get accepted into any. It's about the best of your bunch. So regardless of which one you get accepted to, you're picking the best of your bunch, and we've given you the tools to identify what the best is.
Yeah, Chandra, I want to add to that as well.
Sure.
So I would kind of maybe draw the analogy of, so if you're admitted to a top tier school, top 3 tiers or so, it's like being on the nice paved highway, right? Kind of leads you much more quickly towards your goal and your destination. If you don't have the good fortune or the fortune to have that happen, and you're, let's say, in a less competitive school as a result, it doesn't mean you can't get to the goal, but you know you're going to be taking the back and the side roads to get there, which means it's going to be harder to get there, and you'll need to adjust your strategy, recognizing the disadvantages of what you bring. Right? So just like if you were looking to gain admission into some selective institution or club or whatever, you would have to present yourself a certain way. Well, if you don't already have the things that help you present yourself, you have to acquire them. So it might be in that case where you say, I need to have a 3.8 or 9 GPA so that I look like I'm one of the top students at that less competitive school. 4.0 GPA. I'm also a leader. I'm not just a member of 3 clubs. I'm a leader of a club, or a leader of more than 1 club, if that be the case. So you just have to then, at that point, adopt a strategy that allows you to stand out as one of the exceptional individuals at that particular lower tiered school.
Great. More than one of the colleges I applied for in the most competitive section has accepted me, and I have yet to receive the financial aid package. What should I do?
You want to reach out to them as soon as possible because that decision is in May. So you really want to make sure that if you haven't received the financial aid yet, that you're reaching out, calling financial aid, getting an update on your status, and trying to figure out what that is so that you can make that decision. And again, Christina and Chandra can help you with that if that's an issue you're having with reaching the schools.
Thank you. What should I do if only one college accepted me that has offered me money? However, it only covers half of the tuition and every other college hasn't offered me any money.
I guess it would depend. They haven't offered any money in the financial aid package. It would depend also on the tier. So again, these very specific questions about your college and your financial aid, definitely bring that to Christina and Chandra. They can really work with you because it would depend on the other schools that that didn't give you money. But let's say you were given half of the tuition, you would be able to sort out what type of loans you could maybe take out and the combination of the federal to make sure that it can cover the other half of your school. But again, ask these specific questions to them because they can really help you with depending on the other schools and the name of the school that you were accepted to.
Thank you, Vika. At this time, we have no further questions. I will open the floor to Julian and Vika if you guys have any parting remarks that you would like to share.
Well, I just wanted to thank you guys for your time and know that we're in your corner during this, difficult time, and it's a huge decision for you to make. But hopefully, we've given you the tools to make that decision. And please, please, please use the Barron's rankings and the college profile that we sent you. That is going to be your main document, those two main documents for you to make these decisions. And we can definitely help you with that if you're having trouble trying to navigate those documents.
Thank you, Vika, for those remarks. Julian, I believe he has something else he'd like to say.
I was on mute, sorry. I was just saying, please reach out to my colleagues, Chandra and Christina. But let me step back just a little bit to say to you all that what we're advising you is what upper middle class, the top 10% already know. Right? When you call them the upper middle class, what do you call them? More affluent people already know. There's a reason from the time their kids are 6 years old, they're trying to get them into Brown University or Dartmouth or Cornell or Vassar or Swarthmore, right? There's a reason for that. They're not just doing it because they want to pay a lot of tuition. They're doing it because they know it actually provides the access to the most lucrative and most coveted opportunities in this country. So what we're giving you, and we very much recognize that most parents, just like most students don't know this, who come from less advantaged backgrounds, most parents don't. Because a lot of parents think that all colleges mean the same thing in the American system. And that's just not the case. So what you're getting here is information that for the most part you likely would not learn on your own until you were 35. And by that time, you would see how the game is actually run. You'd be someplace and you'd see why the people who are, when you're going 30 miles an hour, they're getting to travel at 60 miles an hour. And then you'd come to understand this is the reason why. So we're just sharing it with you now, recognizing it is not common knowledge among people who are not coming from the most affluent background. So I would say take advantage of it. We're not kind of making it. We've tried to illustrate for you how it actually plays out. And we recognize that it is new information for many people, including their parents, because we're not coming initially from these upper income brackets. So, take advantage of this information. Believe me, when you're 25 and you're out in the workplace, you will go, wow, I'm so glad I learned that when I learned it. If you learn it when you're 30, it's too late.
Great.
So, good night and good luck.
Thank you, Julian. So both Vika and Julian have provided you guys with a wealth of information. I know that there's been lots of mention about tiers, and I just want to remind you all that you should have received an email that included the Barron's rankings, as well as a college profile that will detail for you the tiers of the schools that you've applied to, as well as those that you've been accepted to, so that it could help guide your college decision-making process. Additionally, if you all should have any further questions, you are welcome to continue to text them in as well as email them to myself or Christina. Again, we thank you all for joining us. We hope that you have learned a lot of invaluable information, and we wish you all a good night.